favor. And then we have several others here that do not indicate a desire to speak, but again, on the same topic. So given that, then I'll go ahead and call up the people who have indicated interest in speaking, and we'll go through those. Just so you know, we do have 2 minutes, and that's what we do on all public comment. You have 2 minutes to speak, and also did want to let you know that under Arizona state law, we here up on the dais are not able to respond to the comments that you might make, but we may refer any issues that are raised to the county manager to possibly follow up with you on those. But I just wanted you to know that when we don't respond, it's not out of disrespect for anything like that, but it's actually mandated by Arizona state law. And again, we appreciate all of you taking the time out of your busy days to come down and speak to us today. And I will apologize in advance if I mispronounce people's names. Again, not meant as any disrespect, but we are very grateful for you coming down today. So the first one we have is Pam Leeds Ragborg. If you could put, what was that?
Perfect.
Oh, all right. Wow, that doesn't happen very often.
No, not to me, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, and good morning.
Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for all you do. I imagine that all of you have administrative assistants. Maybe there's a pool of admins who work for you and they all know each other. Imagine that one day the AC in their office area stops working. The admins get together and ask the facilities manager if the AC unit can be replaced. The manager tells them there's a brand new AC unit sitting in a county warehouse, but it won't be delivered for a few more months. The public reads about the high office temps on social media and chips in to have fans delivered. But when they arrive, the facilities manager tells the admins he doesn't have time to take the fans out of the box. Imagine that these ladies have a private email group where they discuss work issues, including the heat in their office. Hey, maybe we should get all the admins to bring in temperature gauges tomorrow, one writes. Imagine that another of the admins in this private email group, who's hoping to move up the corporate ladder, shares the email thread with the facilities manager, who shares them with you. On the basis of that comment, what is the likelihood that you would fire those admins? Would they be given a warning first, put on probation? And for what? A private message? Now imagine that these admins aren't paid employees, but volunteers who have given their blood, sweat, and tears and a collective 100 hours a week in service of the county's abandoned dogs. Imagine the mindset of a director who would conjure up a reason to keep out admittedly great volunteers because they spoke critically about high temps in the kennels and were critical of an employee who couldn't be bothered to help distribute ice to the dogs on a sweltering Phoenix summer day. These volunteers aren't asking for damages, though they have most certainly been damaged reputationally and by infliction of distress. They're only asking you to make it right, to reinstate them to their volunteer positions so that they can continue to save county dogs. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming down. Next, we have Anita Osa. Good morning.
Please also bring us your strollers, car seats.
I'm going to be reading a statement from Lisa Locks Johnson. She was not able to be here today. I want to start by asking you why you think we are here today. Do we have anything to gain from lying? If county truly did nothing wrong regarding the temperature, why the email from Jose with a subject line of, "We are being watched"? Why were the swamp coolers fixed if they were not broken? There are photos showing it was not in the mid-80s, as some are claiming, as early as last night on Facebook. I contacted the media along with 2 other rescue people. We are not going to go away. The bullying, silencing, and double standards are no longer. We will not stand for it. You have violated the civil rights of Lorena, Jordan, and Erica. They have dedicated over 10,000 plus hours to county. Let that sink in, 10,000 hours. How cowardly of MCACC to fire these ladies without any due process. I think you should look into Connick versus Myers or Board of Supervisor versus Bellot and reinstate these volunteers before this goes any further. Clint Hickman, why don't you ask your chief of staff what he really thinks of animals? After his post last night, I am shocked and appalled. You should also ask Mr. Jose Santiago what the video is about that he created, or just listen to the song by Taylor Swift, You Need to Calm Down, and I'm sure you will figure it out. Why is it any different for your paid employees to post such things on social media, but the volunteers cannot have a private conversation without fearing termination? I will finish by stating again, why do you think we are here today? And again, what do we have to gain from lying? I am calling for a reinstatement of the volunteers and some serious changes at county. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down and reading that statement. Next, we have Kathleen Bow.
Anyone finding a passport? Near gate number 5. Please contact the American Airlines. Once again, if anybody has found a passport near gate 4 or 5, please contact the American Airlines.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
I am Kathleen Bow, and I am the mother of Lorena Bader and the grandmother of Jordan Bader, who were two of the ladies that were fired that were mentioned in the previous speakers. I volunteered for about 1.5 years at the county shelter because I saw Lorena doing so much for our abandoned animals. I did not work with the animals, only in the office, where I observed the habits of management. I watched Lorena day after day work with difficult animals that the staff couldn't handle, and this resulted in her being violently attacked by a dog the staff asked her to get out. It ended in hand surgery and permanent damages and scarring, but she was back a week later. She kept it private to avoid adverse attention to the staff in the shelter. But I do have some pictures that I'd like to share of the injury. Jordan is employed 5 days a week, and then she comes in on her 2 days off to work with the senior dogs, the 8-year-olds or older. And she networks on social media, thus saving hundreds of animals from death over there. These 3 ladies were fired without knowing why because they tried to protect our defenseless animals that are supposed to be kept safe from harm. Instead, the shelter tries to cover their neglect. The shelter environment is toxic, and management attempts to control, retaliate, threaten, and punish anyone who speaks up about conditions that need change. We need someone who really cares about animals to come and make changes to protect our animals. Someone who shows respect to the people who actually do the work that many staff members do not do. Thank you very much. May I pass these?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for coming down. Thank you for your words. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank everyone in the room here and those who are your friends and family members who volunteer with the animal care and control here in Maricopa County. We greatly appreciate all that you do for our animals in our county. Next, we have, put the glasses on here, Adrian Ayala? Yes, please join us. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'm here on behalf of the welfare of our animals of the county. 2018, the officials knew the cooling systems didn't work. How I know this? They were down there wrestling ice, pools, and repairmen last year. I want to know why the cooling systems weren't fixed to be ready for this year that has record-setting temperatures starting in April, triple digits. Director knew about it. Everybody knew about it. And yet nothing was done until the community comes up and brings it to social media of 108 temperatures. Dogs were suffering down there, and nothing was being done. There's many things and events going on down there. There's lots of smoke and mirrors going on. I would like to know when we're going to get the cooling systems fixed. The answer to the cooling system getting brought to the news media by Mary Martin, the officials, was fire 3 volunteers that were the face and voices of those animals, known by 40,000 people, to network and save lives. I'm here to ask to bring those volunteers back that were wrongly fired, that has cost more lives, and get our systems fixed. I want answers, audits. Where is all of the donations? The budget going? It's not being in the cooling system. I've got 2 years of Board of Supervisors meetings that I went through, and not one special meeting did I find anything about cooling systems being fixed for the last year. Could have been fixed before we came into this sweltering heat. I appreciate your time and attention, and answer emails. Haven't gotten any response from any one of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for your words. Next, we have BJ Bevins.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you
morning.
for listening to me. I'm also here in support of Jordan and Lorena and Erica. I, too, am a volunteer, and I've worked beside those women, and I've seen how much they love and care for those animals. I don't have a script. I'm talking to you from my heart. I know it's hard on everybody down there, but I also know as an Arizonan that I've lived here for a long time, and I can walk into a hot room and I know when things are hot. A little while ago, Councilman Church, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name, but you made reference to how much cooler it is in that room over there, and I'm very comfortable in this room right here. Can you imagine being held in a kennel in 108 degrees and not able to get out and not able to get any more water than what's in your bucket and being at the mercy of whoever takes pity on you? Jordan and Lorena and Erica go down there, as well as a bunch of us, and take care of those animals and pull them out and get them into some air conditioning or a little bit cooler temperature. But I don't think you as individuals that are not there all the time realize what those animals go through and are literally at our mercy. So I hope you do reconsider and let those people be reinstated. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The final speaker slip I have here is Marie Sprudy. Good morning. Sorry about that.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am not a volunteer. I have volunteered in the past at other kennels, and I'm a grandmother now, and I have 2 grandkids that I'm a full-time grandma. So I'm here because I have watched the tireless efforts of all the volunteers in the county kennels. I've been down there. I know the animals get hot, but I'm very frustrated because I can see how much work, the tireless effort, the hours they put in, the love they put in, the care for these animals, cats, dogs, and other pets that could be there. So I'm here saying, just as a member of the public, we need to have some kind of forum that holds management accountable. You know, they get the budget and we have no answers for where the money goes. Why aren't you fixing the AC? Dogs are dying, they're having seizures. So we need to first fix these problems. Let's have a group for a public. You can have veterinary members of the public, a couple of ex-volunteers, a teacher, people who love animals, to say, you know what, we're going to hold you accountable. Let's get a process in place to hold. The volunteers need to be held accountable too, but we can't put the cart before the horse. If these are the policies, okay, social media, let's make it for everybody, for Jose, for Mary, and for everyone. But right now, we cannot put the cart before the horse. I don't have a prepared statement, so I'd like to apologize for that. I got in on an airplane, I changed my flight to come in to be here on behalf of these volunteers. I have several dogs at my home that I have rescued currently and have rescued in the past. So having said that, I'd like to read a statement from Nebula Clement. She's in a group called the Changemakers. I'm so scared to ever say anything. The dogs look so hot. I don't know what to do. One dog let me spray his paws with water. I made sure it was cool first, and he seemed so hot and thankful. He was so hot, panting really bad. Every time I passed the outside portion of his kennel, he looked at me, so I sprayed his paws down. I bet if anyone saw me do that, I would get in big trouble. Even though I was not being cruel, I was trying to help him cool down. I see so many hot dogs, and they have no AC system.
I apologize, your time is...
Okay, that's okay, but you got the point. We need to work with the volunteers and work with management, work with the people who are, hold them all accountable before we just start issuing termination notices.
Thank you very much, and thanks for changing your...
Thank you, Lorena, Jordan, and Erica. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so if there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the names of folks who did not indicate a desire to speak. And if you do want to come up and speak, you can speak. But I would ask, if you can keep your comments focused on points that haven't been made already. I think the speakers who've spoken already have made very effective points. So if you have things to add, so I'm just going to read through. So Callie Wolf, you'd like to speak? All right, come on down, please.
I don't know where to begin because there's many issues that need to be brought to attention, but I don't understand how county officials are saying that the temperatures were only 80 degrees when my temperature at my house is set at 80 degrees and the dogs are perfectly fine in my house. So with that being said, I stand here today and ask you these redundant questions. After your long work week, do you spend your days off being slobbered, peed, and pooped on? Do you spend hours sitting on the hard concrete floor next to a dog that you know is going to die in less than an hour because it has nowhere to go, that is scared out of its mind because it has lost everything it ever knew? Do you carry the burden of falling in love with a sweet dog that was dumped by its family and it shows you nothing but love and kindness just to watch it be euthanized the next day because it doesn't fit the criteria? These are some of the many hats these volunteers wear doing their volunteer duties. These girls spent hundreds of hours doing over and above the jobs of the shelter employees get paid to do, and they do it for free, saving the shelter thousands of dollars. They network each rescue and do everything they can to save as many dogs as they can and have successfully saved thousands of these dogs. I ask you, why and how could you cut out a volunteer that works so hard from an already underfunded and overpopulated shelter that has done nothing wrong to warrant being fired? How can you take these dogs that have very little left and let someone's personal opinion determine the rights for someone to spend their time and help with these dogs that already have done next to nothing? Please overturn the decision of firing these volunteers, put the dogs first, and let these volunteers continue to do their amazing work.
Thank you very much. We have Steve Sprout.
I'm not going to speak.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Haley Hannigan. Would you care to speak? All right. Thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. I am here to ask that the Board of Supervisors and Maricopa Animal Care and Control to implement a clear consequence matrix for the dismissal of volunteers. And that if they refuse to reinstate the volunteers for private comments, that they also dismiss volunteers who have made comments publicly that were detrimental to the shelter. The comments that were made last year was the release of an internal email by a volunteer. It resulted in death threats to Mary Martin and bomb threats to the Maricopa Animal Care and Control shelter itself. That volunteer was given the opportunity to go into a meeting with administration, plead her case, and was consequently reinstated. That opportunity was not provided to the 3 volunteers who were dismissed. They got no answers. They were dismissed without being able to plead their case. That is unfair and unjust. If you're going to have volunteers being dismissed for comments that are made privately, taken out of context, and then released to the entire email list of Maricopa Animal Care and Control, then there needs to be accountability to dismiss any volunteer who speaks out publicly. There was also another volunteer who was dismissed for a comment made on the private MCACC page. She called the shelter a hostile work environment and was emailed and told not to return to the shelter until she had a meeting with administration. She had a meeting, she was allowed to plead her case, and she was reinstated and is a current volunteer at Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. So why the difference? Why is it that some volunteers are allowed to speak derogatory and some aren't? Some are allowed to plead their case and some aren't. I would very much like an answer to why there seems to be a difference depending on who is the one speaking out. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Mackenzie Baker, do you wish to speak? Yes. All right, please join us.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Mackenzie Bader, and I'm reading this letter on behalf of Lorena Bader, who was fired from MCACC. Good morning. I'm writing this because Mary Martin and the management team at MCACC have violated our right to privacy and, more importantly, our civil rights. The comments that were made were from a private group chat on Messenger. They should have never been used as a reason to fire us and should never have been shared with thousands of people through the news and mass emails. None of us conspired to undermine county nor denigrate an employee on social media. A little bit about me that should have made you question why I was fired with no notice while on vacation. I have not been in the state since July 10th, long before the temperature mess. I have helped the adoption, behavior, and alternate placement teams daily when they were short-staffed or when someone needed my expertise. I was bitten more than once, but was recently attacked by a dog, required surgery, and was left with a permanently disabled finger, but continued on helping with the shelter. I believe that Jordan Bader, Erica Edmark, and myself were fired because Mary Martin and Jose Santiago overreacted to comments that were taken out of context from a private conversation. Instead of looking into the situation in a calm, professional manner, they chose to fire us without even investigating the situation and give us an opportunity to explain the situation. Nathan Winograd, a renowned animal rights activist and attorney, recently shared our story and agreed that our firing was illegal and will not hold up in court. The management team at MCACC has created a culture of fear, intimidation, retribution, and secrecy. My goal is to bring attention to this and to work towards solutions that will make it a better environment for employees, volunteers, and the animals in their care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bader. Mimi Slavin, would you care to speak? Thanks for joining us this morning.
Pass this around, if you could just swipe either left or right. This is Gidget, and this is before, during, and after. Here. Gidget is a 10-year-old, funky-looking little Chihuahua that's a little bit deaf, a little bit blind, and had a lump on her back that was the size of a softball. She was unable to be placed, and basically because of those people, Gidget now is laying by the pool. Nobody would touch her. She basically would not have gotten out. We got her out 15 minutes before they closed, and that was a dog that never stood a chance. And it's because of those people. I don't understand at this juncture why politics is going to impact these animals. They basically put in 100 hours a week. These animals are basically getting out of the kennel. They're being socialized, they're being loved, and they're being given a chance. And without that, none of them would have made it out. What I'd like to ask is, I guess the verbiage is, that the matter be placed on a future agenda and give all the Gidgets a chance. It's volunteers. nothing more, nothing less. That's it.
Thank you very much for coming down and speaking today. We really appreciate it. Next is Jim Kenahan. Kenahan, do you care to speak? Thanks for joining us today.
I'm concerned about the county animal shelter. We've all seen the news reports and the social media banter. So here we have a team of people with the same objective, the same goal, animal care. No disagreement about this common objective, this great cause that everyone is centered on. So how can the management of such a universally accepted good cause go so bad? How can the goal of sheltering and adopting dogs and cats turn into an abuse of power and a violation of constitutional rights? As I watch the continuing news coverage, I can't help but ask myself, how much is this debacle going to cost taxpayers when it hits the courts? Why is it that this county continues to pay tax dollars time and time again for management malfeasance? I'm not the only taxpayer and voter that is concerned. And just a show of hands, who's here supporting an investigation and improvements in the county animal? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annette Kenahan, would you like to add some words? Thank you.
I don't volunteer. My expertise is money, and I am related. I'm Lorena Bader's sister. I've had some serious concerns about the lack of transparency of donations, conflicts of interest, as well as a violation of Section 1983, which clearly protects volunteers from speaking out and their First Amendment rights. Potential theft of donations by management, and even hiring practices. So as I mentioned, I have donated supplies and money to the shelter. After ARM abruptly left, which there's a lot of question about that, they formed Animal Amigos, which was a 501c3. It turns out that some of the management at the rescue is on the board of the 501c3, but that was not disclosed. Well, if you know anything about 501c3s, it needs to be disclosed. They took money, there was lack of transparency, misrepresentation, and it wasn't until the county attorney got involved that that got nixed. Now the money's sitting in limbo. We were promised that our donations, excuse me, would go to specific causes. Nothing has occurred there. It's known throughout the shelter that donations that come through Amazon are directed to go to management. There's no inventory done. They're sorted. The things that they want, they take out to their car, and the other things they give to the animals. I find that extremely concerning, thinking the fact that I'm donating money, my hard-earned money, to this shelter, and it's not being used for its intended purposes, and I'm sure it's a concern to you guys too. As members of the board, I'm sure you all understand you have a fiduciary duty, right? And that fiduciary duty includes making sure that money is being used for its intended purposes, that there's not making up numbers for donated items, that the animals and volunteers are being treated humanely, that the rescue is not violating laws. In your own words, you said the role is important and you have a solemn responsibility. I'm asking you to reinstate the volunteers, complete an audit to really find out what's going on. If I can find out the stuff I found out in 2 hours, I can only imagine what would happen if you did a forensic accounting. And lastly, that you put and you reinstate the volunteers, as I mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time today. Andrea Alden?
I would like to speak.
Okay, please join us. Thank you.
I'm here to speak in support of the volunteers who were fired on August 1st. My goal is to demonstrate that similar cases have been decided in courts across the country in favor of the volunteers. First, in 2015, a U.S. district judge ruled that the opportunity to serve as a volunteer with a government organization, such as a shelter, is a constitutionally protected benefit, and that the volunteers have the right to exercise constitutionally protected free speech without fearing retaliation from that organization. Second, legal precedent says that volunteers, along with members of the public, have a right to document things they believe are improper within a taxpayer-funded government agency. Their right to take photos and videos to assist in finding animals' homes is also legally established. The federal statute known as Section 1983 has successfully been applied to punish action by the management of public shelters across the country when they retaliate against their volunteers for exercising their First Amendment rights. The current story from MCACC management is that these volunteers were fired for things they said in a private chat, which is legally questionable in and of itself. However, precisely because government officials are unlikely to admit that their punishments have exceeded the bounds of the law, courts have allowed plaintiffs to use both direct and circumstantial evidence to establish that their volunteers' rights were suspended in retaliation for exercising their rights. Such circumstantial evidence includes showing that the volunteers' privileges were withdrawn within a narrow time frame around the time that they engaged in their protected conduct, and that no other valid or legal explanation was given. Using Section 1983, actual injury can be demonstrated simply by showing that the volunteer has suffered a loss of any governmental benefit or privilege. As the Supreme Court has stated, a government entity may not deny a benefit to a person on a basis that infringes his constitutionally protected interests, especially his freedom of speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time today. Jordan Bader, would you care to speak? Good morning.
I have something to pass out too. Okay. Good morning. My name is Jordan Bader. I'm one of the 3 volunteers who was fired from MCACC. And I know you guys have heard a lot of stories, but I wanted to tell mine. First, about the temperatures. Volunteers and staff were concerned about the excessive heat in some of the buildings. We alerted supervisors, managers, and had people put in maintenance requests to fix the coolers. The kennels were still extremely hot with temperatures often above 95 degrees. After dogs started being affected, I sent the picture of the temperature gun reading and the dogs panting to 2 women who work in the rescue community. Other people contacted the media. Jose Santiago went onto the news and said they needed the public's help because the swamp coolers weren't working. On another news report, he stated that there was no problem. After the news reports, he sent out the email, "They are watching us," to inform staff to watch out for temperature guns and what to tell people and how they fix the problem. That email shows there is more concern for appearances than for the actual animals in their care. As a result of those pictures that I sent out, there were thousands of dollars worth of supplies and materials donated for the dogs to the proper care during summer, which we were very happy. We were content with that. They're getting the help they need, and that's all. 2 days later, we were fired. We did not find out. We got just a quick email saying, "You guys are no longer here. You can't come back. You need to turn in your stuff by a certain date." No reason at all why we were fired. And it was the shortest little paragraph, like we meant nothing to them. We did not find out for 5 days why we were fired. When he first talked to the media, Jose Santiago said it was a personnel issue that he couldn't discuss. Then MCACC changed course, and 3 hours later, they shared screenshots of our conversation in a private group chat on the news for thousands of people to see. It was a private group chat. In addition, management sent out an email to all staff, volunteers, and fosters why we were fired with the screenshots. We were never given the respect of an email, phone call, or conversation about the situation. The comments were taken out of context. Although county claimed that we conspired to undermine MCACC and degrade an employee on a social media platform, we did not. After dedicating the past 5 years to saving the lives of dogs at MCACC and establishing 3 Facebook pages with over 40,000 followers, I find it appalling that I have been treated the way I have been treated by management. Even after I was fired and have gone in as a member of the public last week, I have been harassed and discriminated against. Please ask yourselves what I have to gain by speaking out about conditions at MCACC. I will continue to network the dogs and support the employees who do work hard to care for the dogs. Our civil rights.
I apologize. Your time is up, so if you could just wrap up, please.
Our civil rights have been violated, and we will continue to fight until we are reinstated.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking today. Next is Erica Edmark. Would you like to speak? Yeah, please. Please come on and join us. Good morning.
I would like to address the recent termination of the 3 county shelter volunteers and the very clear retaliation against us for exposing dangerous kennel conditions, retaliation that is illegal under federal statute, section 1983. MCACC maintains that this was not retaliation and that the volunteers were fired over comments made in a private chat. However, on December 31st, MCACC, in an effort to censor volunteer concerns and opinions, gave us explicit permission to say whatever we want about the shelter, both publicly and privately, on our own personal pages or private groups. So why were we actually terminated? The private chat in question has been going on about 18 hours a day for 2 years. Most of the time it is about the needs of the animals, walks, vet attention, baths, adoption networking, etc. Occasionally these concerns are due to the understaffing of the shelter or yes, possibly negligence or complacency of the staff. Shelter administration received a few cherry-picked screenshots from this chat where the volunteers were discussing the shelter's incredibly poor reaction to the public being made aware of dangerous kennel conditions. Management took out of context, facetious, and most importantly, private comments alleging that we had denigrated an employee and conspired to undermine the shelter. A simple review of these comments with context shows that we did neither of these things, but management's pride was hurt and they seized this opportunity to retaliate. When many in the animal rescue community expressed their support for us on MCACC's official Facebook page, their comments were illegally deleted by staff and further illustrates that they have no qualms about violating civil rights to save face. Management has consistently proven over and over again that they have no regard for First Amendment rights and will put their own reputations and egos above the safety of the animals. They will continue to unconstitutionally censor anyone who doesn't toe that line. I urge the board to reverse the decision to terminate the volunteers before this ordeal goes any further. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I also have some literature for you to read.
Thank you. Next, we have Elizabeth. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for saving me there, Elizabeth. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Elizabeth. I've lived here in Arizona about 15 years. I have a degree in advanced behavioral health sciences, and I'm currently pursuing a doctor of behavioral health. I'm a concerned citizen. I would just like to say I don't know any of these volunteers outside of the professional environment. I adopted 2 dogs strictly from the social media group. So I'm not affiliated with these women. I don't know them personally outside of the shelter. Just like to say that. I'm really disturbed by the dysfunction of the management and whatever else has been going on. I've been hearing a lot of disturbing reports. I'm really upset, frankly, by the juvenile behavior and lack of basic conflict resolution skills or any type of policies for the volunteers and how everybody's getting treated differently. If you guys escape this without a lawsuit, you're very lucky. So hopefully you immediately reinstate these volunteers. Need to mitigate some of this damage. I'm currently in a research writing class at the university. If something doesn't happen immediately, I'm demanding changes, accountability, immediate reinstatement of these volunteers. I will be doing a SWOT analysis of the county if this does not happen. I'll be taking myself and other academics to do research on the weaknesses and failures in management at the county if something doesn't happen immediately. I will be following up on this as a patriot, as a taxpayer. Something needs to be done now. I'm not okay with this, and I will take further action if I don't see accountability and changes happen immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining us. Next is Dina Rico. Okay, Dina, yeah, great. Thanks for joining us and bringing a friend. Good morning to Jake.
Hi, Hi guys, like I said, I'm Dina. Before I started, I just wanted to say thank you for recognizing National Suicide Awareness Month. I suffer from a TBI and PTSD, which is part of the reason that I have Jake, who is also a rescue. I can hands down say that he has saved my life on multiple occasions, either from side effects related to my injury or from other things. So I do want to say thank you. I didn't know that that was going to happen today, and I really do genuinely appreciate that. I'm in a bit of a unique position. I've not only worked as a shelter volunteer in Orlando and in Los Angeles, I also had planned on becoming a shelter director eventually. I was going to school for nonprofit management and public administration for my master's in Orlando when I was hit in the head with a golf club and suffered my TBI. I was lucky enough that I had spent 3 years volunteering for the shelter prior, and they actually helped sponsor Jake and get his training done and his medical care done. I moved here to be closer to my parents to get help with my medical care. Instead of, and I stood in a meeting quite like this, people quite like this, with the shelter staff and volunteers several years prior, speaking about my concerns in the Orlando shelter. Instead of firing me or asking me to not come back or limiting my rights, they opened their arms to me. I was allowed to shadow every single position, and my master's paper for my final semester was the impact that the relationships of volunteers and staff have on the animals. And it also went into how the relationships develop. I really am disappointed in the reaction. You've already heard those things, but as somebody who has seen other shelters work and how they operate, this is not the way it should be. This isn't legal. It's violating amendment rights, and we can do better, and we should do better. There's no reason for this. So I wish that you would take a look at the policies and procedures and what's been done. And I do have photos and videos if you're interested. I did stop by the shelter. The readings were 80 degrees. However, it was not 80 degrees in there. I'm the first one to put on a hoodie when I go into, probably less than 90 degrees. I was sweating. I don't know if you noticed, my dog was suffering. When he came in here, I had to step out to give him water and cool him down with a cool cloth. So I know my time is up. I apologize, but I do have that experience that I wanted to share with you, and I'd be happy to share my study with you as well.
Dina, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining us. And again, I want to thank everyone who took the time to come down here and speak. We do appreciate your words. Okay, yeah, and what's your name? Okay, yeah, if you can come up. All right. Great, and this will be our last speaker. Thank you. If you can just state your name and spell it for the record so that we have it in the record.
It's Gwendolyn, Gwendolyn, last name Hjelmstad. What I wanted to add to what has been said is I work in healthcare. I work with humans. We have a Whistleblowers Protection Act. If one of my patients was left in a room that was 100 degrees, not only would we be expected to report it, we would be in violation and could get criminal charges and prosecution against ourselves if we did not report it. Those dogs were left suffering in over 100-degree kennels for weeks on end. I'm miserable in here and it's not that hot. I don't imagine what those poor homeless animals that are scared were going through. And they, instead of saying, wow, our bad, we should fix this broken system, Mary Martin and the people in the administration are saying, let's look at these volunteers, aren't they bad? And that is completely wrong. They need to look in the mirror. They need to advocate for those innocent animals that have no one to advocate for them, but volunteers like these 3 ladies that were unjustifiably let go. I thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you for your time again. Thanks to everyone for your time. As I mentioned at the beginning, state law prohibits us from responding to the comments that you made. But please know, I want to thank my colleagues here for sitting. Everyone was listening very closely to our staff as well, county manager, and we have representatives from animal care and control. So again, want to thank you for the time that you donate. And the resources that you donate to animal care and control, we greatly appreciate that. So now that